Back in the saddle again. Hello, BFOD squad. Welcome back to Barrel Full of Daryl, to Season 2, Episode 18. Wow. That's 70 episodes in the books. And I thought I wouldn't make it.
That blows my mind.
And me too, Kenzie. So this is where I talk about music, movies, throw in a little bit of mirth, as well as some other funky ass shit. Now, last week I gave you a mystery movie quote. Okie dokie artichoke. That's from a very funny film titled Balls of Fury. And it's about an underground ping pong tournament, a yearly underground ping pong tournament. It stars Christopher Walken as a guy called Fang. And he comes out to open the show and he says, Okie dokie artichoke. Now this tournament, it has elimination rounds. And that means if you lose, you die. Yeah. It was written by Thomas Lennon and Robert Ben Garant, who are also the creators behind the hilarious show Reno 911 and also follow-up movie. Okay, mystery music lyric. We were born before the wind, also younger than the sun. Yeah, we'll talk about that next week. Okay, music. Dire Straits. Do you know? Anybody know them? Let's see a show of hands. Okay, good. So they got their name Dire Straits because when they started, they basically had zero money in their checking accounts. No bank, no money in the bank. Now, they were a British rock band, formed in London in 1977. Now, Mark Knopfler is the lead guy, lead vocals and lead guitar. His brother David played rhythm guitar. John Illsley was on bass, and Pick Withers on drums. Wow, this band. Now they were active from 1977 to 1988, and then again from 1990 to 1995. They only released 6 studio albums, along with 3 live albums and 2 box sets. So not a huge discography, but a huge impact. Now, one thing I can say about their limited discography is that they were in it for the music, not for the fame or fortune. In fact, Mark Knopfler shunned fame. He's a modest, self-deprecating guy who avoided interviews and the limelight. They were nominated for 2 Grammy Awards. No, they were nominated for many Grammy Awards, and they won 4. They also won MTV Music Video Awards and Brit Awards. Now, in 1986, they also won a Juno Award for International Album of the Year for the album Brothers in Arms. So, about their sound. Now, their influences, or Mark Knopfler's influences, are country, folk, blues, rock, jazz. The man J.J. Cale, who I've discussed previously, as well as Chet Atkins. Now, they hit the scene in 1978 when disco and punk rock were the big thing. and they entered with a stripped down sound that contrasted with both of these. So, like many other artists and bands that I have discussed, they swept in with a unique, attention getting sound. Now, let me talk about Mark Knopfler for a bit. He wrote all the songs and lyrics, and many of them are based on events that he witnessed in his daily life. For example, their first big hit, Sultans of Swing, was inspired when he visited a pub that had live music. The band was on stage playing jazz to an almost empty pub. And at the end of the set, the lead man stood up and said, "Thank you very much. We are the Sultans of Swing." Yeah, that's where he got that title. It's also the lyrics of the song. They follow along with that. Now, in similar, for their biggest hit, Money for Nothing, Mark was walking through an appliance store, had a wall full of TVs, and they were all showing MTV. And the employees there were just talking about the bands, basically getting girls and money just for playing music as opposed to hard labor. Again, the lyrics reflect all this. That's a great song, that one. And Sting, the lead singer of the band The Police, he does backing vocals. Now, Mark uses a finger-picking style of guitar playing, which he derived from J.J. Cale and Chet Atkins. It's a laid-back blues rock sound. Now, this provides the band with a minimalistic, stripped-down sound. So he plays the top two strings with his bare thumb and the rest of his fingers for the bottom strings. And don't misjudge this. His riffs are incredible. Just ask Rick Beato. By the way, I was watching a video the other day, and Rick Beato was discussing Mark Knopfler, and stated in the video that in Germany they pronounce the K. It's Knopfler. His name is spelled Knopfler. Knopfler. But I just use Knopfler. Okay, so also something about Mark. When he performs on stage, he always wears a headband and wristbands, and he has the sleeves of his jackets rolled up. Very unique. With this and his energetic jamming, he was quite a character on stage. Okay, as I said before, their debut eponymous album gave them the hit Sultans of Swing. Great song. There are several videos on YouTube of this song being played live, and it's really fun and amazing to watch it. Now, their second album, Communique, garnered one hit called Lady Writer. Now, their third album, Making Movies, is one of my favorites. Now, at this point, Mark became the producer of their albums, and it was a critical and commercial success, and released when Dire Straits was really hitting their stride. Now, it contains the hits Romeo and Juliet, Tonal of Love, and Skate Away. Damn good songs. I remember watching those on MTV, the music videos for them. Now, their fourth release was called Love Over Gold. Gave them two hit songs, Private Investigations and Industrial Disease. These are both great songs, but I particularly enjoy the latter one, Industrial Disease. It's a fun rock song with great lyrics. Now, their biggest album was their fifth release, titled Brothers in Arms. Now, this was the first album to sell over 1 million copies on the CD format. and it stayed at number one on both the UK and Billboard charts for many weeks. From this album, 4 singles were released: So Far Away, Walk of Life, Brothers in Arms, and of course, Money for Nothing. And the latter, Money for Nothing, was their most commercially successful single. And in this song, Mark, he modeled his guitar sound after that of Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top, and he killed it. And okay, Money for Nothing, they released a music video for that one as well. And it contains very early graphics of men working in an appliance store. And it has splices of the band performing live as well. And it just seems like this video had just had constant streaming on MTV. And it won 2 MTV Video Music Awards. Now, after the release of this album and in the subsequent touring, Mark decided he needed a break, and the band went on a 2-year hiatus. But they regrouped in 1991 and released what is my favorite album called On Every Street. And this was their first release in 6 years. Now, 6 singles were released from this album, including the songs Calling Elvis, Heavy Fuel, On Every Street, You and Your Friend, and The Bug. Now, the song The Bug, I referred to that in a previous episode. I think it was in my thought for the week. Sometimes you're a windshield, sometimes you're the bug. So after this album was released, they toured for 2 years, and it was exhausting and miserable for the band. They made a shit ton of money, but it really wore them out. So Mark took some time out from the music business, and the group disbanded. But Mark started a very successful solo career, releasing several studio albums, as well as duet albums with Chet Atkins and Emmylou Harris. He also formed a new but short-lived band, the Notting Hillbillies. I think they released 1 album, and that's a take on the London district called Notting Hill. Notting Hillbillies. Well, this has become a lengthy discussion, and you have likely had enough, but I hope you enjoyed hearing about Mark Knopfler and Dire Straits, and be sure to traipse over to the playlist and give the selected songs a good listen. And now a word from our sponsor. I'll be right back. Just kidding, it's still me. No sponsor today. And you've likely figured out that it's me voicing most of the sponsor segments, with the exception of a few AI voiced sponsors. Now, all of my voiced fake sponsors live in a community called Scratch Ankle, Alabama. And believe it or not, that's a real place, about an hour southwest of Montgomery, Alabama. And my dad was raised in a nearby community called Franklin. And when we visited my grandparents, we always passed a road sign pointing to Scratch Ankle. I kid you not. Now, most of you know that my son-in-law, Kenzie, is the producer of this podcast. I've been known to call him the walking encyclopedia because he is. But after he listened to Season 2, Episode 17, where the sponsor was Billy Ray Bubba, he kind of had a hard time putting Billy Ray Bubba in place in his mind. And he suggested that the episodes need more continuity. And I agree. So today I have decided to break the fourth wall, so to speak, and discuss the sponsors, especially for my newer listeners who may not have been with me from the first episode in season 1. I also need to tell you, Scratch Ankle, it's a real place, but it's not even a town. It's an unincorporated community with about 800 residents. Now, I also mentioned Piggly Wiggly a lot, which is a grocery store chain in the southeastern United States. Truth is, Scratch Ankle is not big enough to have a grocery store, much less a main street. It is rural and agricultural. Okay, so let's talk about the sponsors. Season 1, Episode 1, I introduced Billy Ray Bubba, a used car salesman, the best damn car salesman in Scratch Ankle, Alabama. And his car lot is in the alleyway behind the Piggly Wiggly. And on his lot, he has 3 cars and a bicycle. Now, the cars are a Yugo. You probably don't know what a Yugo is, but it was cars made in Yugoslavia. And they were selling pretty big in the United States back in 1970s, 1980s, but they were real pieces of shit. They didn't last well. Now, he also has on his lot the bottom half of a smart car and an AMC Gremlin with no windshield. Now, Billy Ray also appears in Season 1, Episode 2. But in Season 1, Episode 3, Ellie Mae Bubba appears, and that's Billy Ray's wife. And she's filling in for him on the sponsor message because he had a court appearance. So she goes and visits his car lot for the first time, and she throws a fit when she sees the shit cars that he can't sell. So in Season 1, Episode 4, after Ellie Mae has scorned Billy Ray, he goes back to making moonshine. And in Season 1, Episode 5, he gets nabbed by the feds, and he's placed in the Atmore Federal Penitentiary. Atmore is also a small town in Alabama. Billy Ray appears again in Season 1, Episode 46. He's out on parole and selling cars again. But he gets arrested for stealing the cars that he's trying to sell, and he goes back to the pen. Now, more recently in Season 2, Episode 17, he has escaped from the penitentiary, and he has a new car lot in Possum Trot, Alabama. Also a real place. So now in Season 1, Episodes 6, 7, and 8, we hear from Ricky Ray Bubba, the brother of Billy Ray, who owns a meat market and bait shop. Now, he hunts for some of the meats that he sells, mostly rabbits and squirrels, but he also has hamburgers and hot dogs, that kind of stuff. Now, the next 2 episodes, 13 and 14, the sponsor is Ernest T. Bass, the manager of the Piggly Wiggly. Then in episodes 15 and 16, it's Floyd of Floyd's Barbershop, located right next to the Piggly Wiggly. Now in episodes 17, 18, and 19, I strayed from Scratch Ankle, and I used AI voices selling colon blaster, ED treatment, and smegma treatment. Yeah, I guess at that point I was just having a hard time sustaining the Scratch Ankle sponsors. But my listeners, they let me know about it. They complained and they wanted a return to Scratch Ankle. So in episodes 20 and 21, Ellie Mae Bubba returns, the ex-wife of Billy Ray. And she has, she makes and sells candles. And she's got a little stand set up in Ricky Ray's bait shop and meat market. Episodes 22, 23, and 24, we hear from Maggie Mae Dalton, who has bought out Floyd's Barbershop, and she gives a free pork chop with each haircut. Now, these 3 episodes were voiced by my daughter Megan, and the listeners really loved it. Yeah. So episode 25 brings back Ricky Ray Bubba, meet Market Bait Shop Guy, and he tells us that Ellie Mae left candles burning in his bait shop, and the ensuing fire burned down his business, and he now works at the Piggly Wiggly. In episode 26, we meet the mayor of Scratch Ankle, Big Tom Beauregard, who explains the name of the town. And this town got its name because back in the early 1900s, like 1910, something like that, trains would go past. And the people on the trains would see residents of Scratch Ankle sitting on their porch, bending over and scratching their ankles due to excessive mosquito bites. That's how it got its name. I kid you not. Episode 27, I strayed again and I used an AI voice selling medication for jock itch. Oops. Now, I'll start summarizing the rest of this summary. In subsequent episodes, we met Doc McDonald, the local doctor and veterinarian, and then there's Chrissy May, the local hooker, Willie Ray Parlay, a slow-witted teenager that sold books from his porch, and his father, Dickie Ray Parlay. We also met the police chief, Jonathan Mordecai Turnipseed, and we also met the owner of the local seafood restaurant, Sal Manila. I love that name. How did I come up with that? Sal Manila. Now, at this point, we find out that Ricky Ray got rabies from a raccoon bite, and he eventually dies. But his ghost comes back to haunt the town, walking down Main Street at midnight. And the people of Scratch Ankle were pretty upset about this. So they call up an exorcist, Madame Marmalade from New Orleans, and she gets rid of the ghost. Now we also meet this kid named Robbie Ray Simpleton. He's a teenager who fantasizes about being an entrepreneur, but he calls it entremanure. And he's trying to mate a rabbit and a squirrel to make a squabbit. Eventually, he blows himself up as he's trying to do it Frankenstein style. Then more recently, there's Blind Melon Willie Ray, who is a street busker, but he gets murdered, and the police chief has yet to solve the crime. That's probably coming up soon. So that lays out the history of the sponsors from Scratch Ankle. Looking back, I really wrote some good scripts for them. I need to get back to making them funny like they used to be, and I'll try. Now, the thing about the Scratch Ankle sponsors is they are part of the mirth that I provide. Now, if you haven't already, listen to some of the early episodes in season 1. You'll see what I mean. Also about my phrase, funky ass shit. In an episode, it must have been midway between in season 1 somewhere. At the beginning of the show, I said, sometimes I feel like Snoop Dogg, just trying to come up with this funky ass shit every day. And it stuck. Okay. So far, this episode's running for about 25 minutes, so we're not going to do a movie discussion this week. I'll make it up to you. Word of the week. I'm familiar with the words esoteric and arcane, but I never really knew the difference between them. Now, both words describe things known only to a few people. But esoteric refers to specialized knowledge intended for or understood by a specific inner circle. Okay. Whereas arcane refers to mysterious, ancient, or secret knowledge that's often hidden from the public. It's another word that I wanted to look up the definition to, abstruse. And that is something that is difficult to understand, like maybe something that has a concealed meaning. Also, the word obtuse. For you engineers out there, you know that's an angle greater than 90 degrees. But it's also a person who is slow to understand things that are obvious or simple. A person that is dense, stupid, thick-headed. You guys know anybody like that? I used to. Joke of the week. My friend was showing me his tool shed, and he pointed to the ladder, and he says, "That's my step ladder. I never knew my real ladder." Sorry about that. I got another one for you to make up for it. What's Forrest Gump's favorite password? One, Forrest, one. Get it? Okay, question of the week. Now, last week I asked you, why do the months have different numbers of days? Well, it's because our modern calendar, the Julian calendar, evolved from a mix of astronomy, politics, and ancient Roman traditions. So the year, it does not divide evenly into months. Like a solar year is 365.2422 days long. If you divide that by 12, you get 30.44 days per month. Now, since months contain whole days, I can't imagine having a half day. Some months have to be longer and some shorter. Now, the early Roman calendars had only 10 months, and they did not line up very well with the seasons. So later, additional months were added, but the links remained somewhat uneven. Now, way back, Julius Caesar introduced the Julian calendar, creating a year of 365 days with a leap day every 4 years. Months were assigned lengths of either 30 or 31 days, with February receiving the leftover days, 28. Now, at one time, February was the last month of the Roman year for a long time, not December, February. And when the calendar was reorganized, it ended up with the shortest length. Yeah, 28 days. Let's see, what else? Oh, the months at the end of the year as we know it now: September, October, November, and December. Well, their prefixes mean 7, 8, 9, and 10, respectively. September, October, November, and December. Yeah, kid you not. New question of the week. What is an umbilicus? Umbilicus. umbilicus. All my nurses out there would know that one. Discuss that next week. Thought of the week. Wouldn't it suck if it hurt to get your hair cut? Yeah. A lot of people walking around with long hair, I imagine. So please remember that I've got a terrific playlist floating around out there, season 1 and season 2. And you may want to contact me. And if you do, you can by clicking on the send me a text button within the episode or directly at bfodpodcast@gmail.com. Also, don't forget, these podcast episodes, they also have an option for you to support my show. Just clicky on that, and It allows you to send me some spare change or a few dollars every month. Want to do it? That's great. If you don't want to do it, that's great as well. So that's it. I'm going to wrap up. Thank you for listening, and I hope you were entertained. And I think we'll try it again a week from now, if that's okay with you. So, bye for now.